Good evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Low turnout mars the collection of permanent voter cards in several wards in Osun State capital. China Foreign Minister Qin Gang to visit 5 African countries on his first trip since his appointment. Israel's new far-right government labels Palestinians' national symbol an act of terrorism as it orders police to remove it. My name is Tunde Ido. We start from Osun State here. There was low turnout of registered voters across several wards today in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, southwest Nigeria today, following the decentralization of collection of permanent voter cards to registration areas or wards across the country. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, had earlier commenced the collection of PVCs at registration areas or wards last Friday, with the exercise at ward level to end on the 15th of January. This comes as more than 400,000 PVCs are said to have remained uncollected in Osun State. Olayinka Ali has the rest of the story.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, announced earlier that the collection of permanent voters' card (PVCs) at registration areas and wards across the country should commence on Friday, 6th of January and end on January 15th, 2023, thereby urging all registered voters to make use of this opportunity to get their PVCs. A visit to some wards across Osogbo, Osun State capital, showed that there is a low turnout of registered voters who still haven't collected their voters' card. At Ward 3, Akpom Baptist Primary School, only one person came out to get his card, while Ward 12 and 15 in Ojaoba had just 3 registered voters at the unit to collect their PVCs. At Ward 2, Isale Osun, the INEC official claimed 2 people were able to collect their PVC in the morning, also adding on the low turnout of people at the center. However, at Ward 4, Udiolowo, Mr. Jide Asagodobo collected his permanent voter's card immediately he got to the ward. Mr. Jide stated that he had thought the process was going to be rigorous, but was surprised he got to the ward and got his card with ease.
I believe that INEC is doing the normal thing. Then unfortunately, I was expecting a large crowd. Let's see what is happening now. I was the only person for today, according to what I said. So what I really say is just to appeal to eligible voters to come and collect their PVC.
For Salaudin Wasiu Adepoju, who was experiencing some issues as regards his registration earlier, he couldn't get the card and hoped the INEC officials helped him out.
Actually, we are here to collect our PVC. When I get here, we are not see our own PVC here. That's the only issue we have here. Then they want to find a solution to us to get our PVC. That's the only reason we are stay here.
INEC has previously announced that after January 15th, the exercise will revert to the local government offices of the Commission until January 22nd, 2023. Olayinka Ali, Western Spring Television News.
Students were seen in large numbers across various schools in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, today as they resumed following the Christmas and New Year holiday. The Ministry of Education had earlier fixed the official resumption date for all schools for Monday, January 9, 2023, to keep academic activities in line with the approved academic calendar for the 2022-2023 academic session. On a visit to CAC Grammar School, Araromi, and Anthony Udofia Model Primary School, Okefia, the principal and head teacher of both schools, Mrs. Dupe Aderiola and Mrs. Yemisi Anyolola, disclosed that a large number of their students were in school today and the teachers all on ground to start impacting on the learners immediately. On their part, students like Moses Obo, Adeshewa Bolariwa, Ukumi Olamikara, and Oluwatoni Ogunlabi urged their colleagues who have not resumed to come back to school.
It was very impressive. Though the weather is not okay for the pupils, but still we are happy with the turnout.
for the cookies. I don't have any doubt in my mind that the town will run smoothly. We have everything on ground. The teachers are here. The students are around. We are all ready.
We have resumed and our teacher has started teaching us, and I would like other kids that are at home to come and resume school because we are working now.
The new year break is over and enjoyment is over. Now work has started and I can see in school that everywhere is set. The ground is set so that we can work, and the teachers are coming to the class to teach us.
I am excited to resume school today, and my sister is teaching me today.
I heard students that have not resumed to come to school. Like, work has started already, teachers are ready, students are ready to receive teaching from teachers. So I urge them to come to school because work has started.
News outside Nigeria. Chinese Foreign Ministry has announced its new foreign minister, Qin Gang, is starting his term with a week-long trip to 5 African countries. The ministry spokesperson, Wang Wenbin Quinn, made this known at a daily media briefing, stating that the former ambassador to the United States will visit Ethiopia, Gabon, Angola, Benin, and Egypt from January 9th to 16th. Wang said the visit shows that China attaches great importance to the traditional friendship with the continent and the development of China-Africa relations. The visit comes as the United States and France look to rebuild relationships with Africa, just as Russia's sphere of influence widens. Queen 856 was appointed foreign minister on December 30, 2022, succeeding Wang Yi, who has replaced Yang Jiechi as the government's top foreign policy official. Still in Africa, the streets of the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa, will undergo a makeover from today ahead of Pope Francis' visit at the end of the month. Kinshasa Governor Gentini Ngobila said the main city center will be made more attractive with street vendors and abandoned vehicles removed from roads connecting to the Kinshasa International Airport. Last month, the city experienced the worst floods in years that left more than 120 people dead. This is the first time that the city of at least 14 million residents will be hosting Pope Francis. The previous pope, the late John Paul II, visited the country twice in 1980 and 1985 during the rule of former strongman Mobutu Sese Seko. Catholics make up the majority of the country's population. To the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has denounced what he called Russia's failure to observe a truce it had proclaimed for Orthodox Christmas by staging attacks on Ukrainian cities. Zelensky, in his nightly video remarks, said Russians shelled Kherson in the south with incendiary ammunitions immediately after Christmas. He stated that strikes on civilian targets in Kramatorsk and other cities in Donbass were reported at the very time when Moscow was reported a supposed silence for its army. Russia-backed separatist forces in the eastern Donetsk region of Ukraine says they have seized a village near the key city of Bakhmut that Moscow has been trying to capture for months. In a statement, the separatist authorities said the village of Bakhmutsy, northeast of Bakhmut city in Donetsk region, was liberated by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. The village is just outside the city of Soledar, the scene of heavy fighting like Bakhmut. In the Balkans, Serbs in Bosnia Republika speaker entity are marking the 31st anniversary of the entity's founding, despite a court ban against the event, which is essentially a military parade. Bosnia and Herzegovina's constitutional courts declared the January 9 Republika Speaker Day illegal and unconstitutional in November of 2015, stating that the event is discriminatory against non-Serbs living there. But Republika Speaker authorities have continued to mark the day each year as a public holiday, as 1.2 million residents who live in the entity are not expected to work. Celebrations are typically held in the Banja Luka, the de facto capital of the entity, But this year, for the first time, the event takes place in Serb-majority East Sarajevo, the Republica's administrative center seat. In January 9, 1992, the Bosnian Serb Assembly issued a declaration proclaiming Republika Srpska as an independent nation, separate from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Similarly, the Bosnian Serb separatist leader has awarded Russian President Vladimir Putin with the highest medal of honor for his patriotic concern and love for the Republika Srpska entity. The Bosnian Serb President Milorad Dodik said Putin was responsible for developing and strengthening cooperation and political and friendly relations between the Republika Srpska and Russia. Dodik, who has maintained close ties with the Russian president despite Russia's war in Ukraine, stated this yesterday at the award ceremony in Banja Luka. He further stated that the award is an affirmation of the strategic determination of the relationship of both nations aimed at strengthening the friendship of its people. Prince Harry has accused the royal family of failing to defend his wife Meghan in the controversy over a Jeremy Clarkson newspaper column. In an ITV interview, the Duke of Sussex said the silence was deafening about the horrific Sun article last month. He contrasted this with the quick action taken after a raised row at a Buckingham Palace reception. Prince Harry also said he did not believe comments about his son's skin tone by an unnamed royal were racist. The Clarkson article about Meghan had described how the columnist was dreaming of the day when she is made to parade naked through the streets of every town in Britain while the crowd chants shame. Later taken down by the Sun and prompting an apology from the paper and Mr. Clarkson, the article was described by Prince Harry as horrific and hurtful and cruel towards his wife. Prince Harry accused the royal family of getting into bed with the devil to improve its image, which he linked to relationships between certain members of the family and the tabloid press.
As I, again, detail a lot, I had put a lot of hope in the idea that, it'd be William and Kate and me and whoever. I thought that, the four of us would, bring me and William closer together. We could go out and do work together, which I did a lot as the third wheel to them, which was fun at times, but also, I guess, slightly awkward at times as well. But, I don't think they were ever expecting me to get into a relationship with someone like Meghan, who had, a very successful career.
Pakistan is hosting an international conference in Geneva with the United Nations to generate international support for a rebuilding effort in the country following last year's devastating flood. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres kicked off the one-day event being attended by officials from nearly 40 other countries, as well as private donors and international financial institutions. According to the UN, the unprecedented floods caused by melting glaciers and record monsoon rains last year affected more than 33 million Pakistanis, killing more than 1,700 people and pushing about 9 million others into poverty. In his opening remarks, Guterres praised Pakistan and its people for responding to the tragedy with heroic humanity. The UN chief said Pakistan is doubly victimized by climate chaos and a morally bankrupt global financial system, adding that no country deserves to endure what happened to Pakistan. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break. Please stay with us.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Eva is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Thank you for joining us, Spring Global from Western Spring Television. Israel's new far-right Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, has instructed police to remove Palestinian flags from public spaces, calling the Palestinian national symbol an act of terrorism. Israeli law does not outlaw Palestinian flags, but police and soldiers have the right to remove them in cases where they deem there is a threat to public order. Ben-Gvir's order comes after a mass anti-government protest in Tel Aviv on Saturday, where some demonstrators waved the Palestinian flag. Protesters labeled the recently sworn-in government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as fascist and advocated for equality and coexistence between Palestinians and Israelis. But reacting to the protest yesterday, Prime Minister Netanyahu said the presence of the Palestinian flag at the protest was a wild incitement. Dozens of people have demonstrated in front of a prison in the Iranian city of Karaj amid reports that 2 more men could soon be executed in cases linked with Iran's ongoing protest. Multiple videos posted online showed a crowd gathered early this morning in front of the Raji Shah prison in Karaj near Tehran in an effort to prevent the execution of 22-year-old Mohammad Gobaldo and 19-year-old Mohammad Borunghani. Gobadolu was sentenced to death for allegedly running over several members of the security forces with his car and killing one. In court, Gobadolu had cited a history of mental illness, but a state psychologist testified that he was aware of his actions. Borunghani was convicted of waging war against God for allegedly using a knife to kill a member of the security forces. Iran has so far executed 4 men in cases linked with the protest, which began in mid-September following the death of Masha Amini, who was arrested by the country's morality police. And in Asia, China's military says it carried out military exercises around the self-ruled island of Taiwan that focused on land and sea assaults, the second such drill in less than a month. In a statement, the People's Liberation Army's Eastern Theater Command said that its forces had organized joint combat readiness patrols and actual combat drills in the sea and airspace around Taiwan. A spokesperson for the command, Senior Colonel Shi Yi, said the aim of the exercises was to test joint combat capabilities and resolutely counter the provocative actions of external forces and Taiwan's independent separatist forces. Taiwan's presidential office said China was making groundless accusations and strongly condemned the drills, stating that the peace and stability of the Taiwan Strait and the region were the common responsibility of both Taiwan and China. Parts of northern India are experiencing a severe, prolonged cold wave that has affected normal life. Dense fog has delayed more than 100 flights and dozens of trains, causing chaos at airports and railway stations. Authorities in the capital, Delhi, have asked schools to extend winter holidays and cancel classes. The minimum temperature in parts of the city dropped to 1.9 Celsius yesterday. Other northern states have also been grappling with an acute cold wave, with temperatures dropping to -6 Celsius in Indian-administered Kashmir. United States President Joe Biden has made his first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border since taking office in January of 2022. The hours-long visit yesterday followed a recently announced policy initiative by the Biden administration meant to address an increase in undocumented border crossing. The politically charged issue has dogged the Democratic president since taking office, with Republican critics charging the administration has been too lenient. After the visit, the governor of Texas State, Greg Abbott, called on the president to re-imbue the state and other states that have coped with the issue. The stop in the city of El Paso took place as Biden traveled to Mexico, where he is set to meet President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador before attending a three-way summit with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in Mexico City.
He needs to step up and take swift action, including reimbursing the state of Texas for the money that we spent, but providing more resources for the federal government to do its job. Also, this is nothing but for show unless it begins to enforce the immigration laws already that exist in the United States of America that are contained in the letter that are provided to the president today.
What did he say to you? What did the president say to you?
He said he wanted to work with us on it.
Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has vowed to punish supporters of the country's ex-leader Jair Bolsonaro after they stormed Congress. Supporters of the ousted far-right leader also stormed the Supreme Court and surrounded the presidential palace. But police regained control of the building in the capital, Brasilia, on Sunday evening after hours of clashes. Arriving in the city, Lula toured the Supreme Court building to see the damage for himself. Brasilia's civil police said that 300 people have been arrested. The city's governor, Ibanez Rocha, has been removed from his post for 90 days by the Supreme Court. Justice Alexandre de Moraes accused him of failing to prevent the riot and of being painfully silent in the face of the attack, but Mr. Rocha has apologized for yesterday's events. Pro-democracy rallies are being called by leftist leaders and groups across Brazil. Meanwhile, police have surrounded protest camps in Brazil after supporters of far-right former President Jair Bolsonaro stormed government buildings in the capital. Thousands of demonstrators had ransacked the Congress building as well as the presidential palace and Supreme Court in Brasilia yesterday. Bolsonaro lost the presidential election to Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in October after spreading unsubstantiated claims about voting system. Many of his supporters have refused to accept the result, and some have been camping outside army buildings around the country, calling for a military intervention. However, Bolsonaro has denied encouraging yesterday's attacks, saying what happened had gone beyond democratic protests. World leaders, including U.S. President Joe Biden, have condemned the riots as an attack on democracy. And in business news, the Suez Canal Authority and a canal services firm have confirmed that a cargo vessel that ran aground in Egypt's Suez Canal today has been refloated. Leith agencies said the MV Glory ran aground today near the city of Qantara in the Suez Canal Governorate of Ismaila, adding that canal thugs had refloated the vessel. Leith agencies said minor delays were to be expected after the ship was re-afloated. Suez Canal Authority Chairman Osman Rabi told news outlets that traffic in the canal, one of the world's main shipping arteries, was unaffected by the grounding of the ship. Officials are yet to identify what caused the vessel to sink. In the world of sports, Mikel Arteta says Arsenal are motivated to win the FA Cup this season after their exit from last year's competition. Arsenal finally get their FA Cup campaign started tonight when they travel to Oxford United ahead of the game. Arteta says there is a chance that Emil Smith-Rowe could start against Oxford, which will be the 22-year-old first start of the season and first appearance since October.
A competition that we are really looking forward to play, that brings huge memories to our football club, to the team, because recently, not many years ago, we won it, but as well we had the experience of last year, how we went.
And to tennis, Emma Raducanu says she will hopefully be ready to play in the Australian Open next week, but is taking her recovery from an ankle injury a day at a time the British #1 was forced to retire from her second-round match against Victoria Kozmova at the ASB Classic in Auckland last week after rolling her left ankle. The Australian Open begins on the 16th of January in Melbourne, with Raducanu holding out hope she will have the opportunity to improve on reaching the second round in her main draw debut last year.
It was really unfortunate, to be honest, last week, because I was feeling great about my season. I was feeling really good with the preparation I did physically. And I just had an accident on the court, which don't know what I could have done to really prevent that. But I'm just taking it a day at a time, honestly, and just trying to every single day try as best as possible to see and make progress. And we'll see, hopefully by Monday or whenever the tournament starts, I'll be okay and ready. But we're just taking it a day at a time and not trying to expect too much at this point.
Before we end the Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. Low turnout marks the collection of permanent voter cards in several wards in Osun State capital, following the decentralization of collection of PVC to registration wards. Chinese Foreign Ministry has announced its new Foreign Minister, Qin Gang, is starting his term with a week-long trip to 5 African countries. Israel government has instructed police to remove Palestinian flags from public spaces, calling the Palestinian national symbol an act of terrorism. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. Thank you for viewing. I am Sunday Ido. Good evening.